As I dragged my suitcase wheels through the rain, I never imagined turning 30 would be like this. My blue dress was soaking wet, the same dress my mother had given me on her last birthday. My phone vibrated. It was my lawyer calling. "Did they sign?" I asked, wiping away, the water dripping from my drenched hair. "Yes," said Zeynep, with a tone of victory in her voice. They signed everything without reading a word. Through the raindrops, I took one last look at our old family home. The 2-story whitewashed house with red roses in the garden, a legacy from my mother. Through the window, I could still see my birthday cake with its 30 unlit candles. My father's last words still echoed in my ears. "It's time you built your own life." The ironic thing was that I had sold all my dreams to save this house from foreclosure. My master's program in London, my independence, my future. All of it had turned into 165,000 liras that ended up in my father's hands. As I lifted my suitcase, which still smelled of my perfume, away from the puddle at the edge of the sidewalk, something changed inside me. The Aylin who shed tears was gone. Looking at my cell phone, a strange smile appeared on my face. Sometimes life's darkest moments transform into your most powerful ones, because even though I no longer lived in that house now belonged to me. Hello, I'm Aylin. I'm going to tell you how I was betrayed by my family and how I delivered justice with my own hands. This story isn't just about revenge, it's about the importance of valuing yourself and setting boundaries. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you loved? Or had your kindness exploited? Maybe you've recognized toxic relationships in your family, but didn't know what to do. I'm sharing this story because you might have faced similar situations in your life, and I want you to know that you're not alone. You are powerful too. You just need to discover it. My story begins with my mother's death. I was 15, and my life was shattered. My mother wasn't just a mother, but the heart of our family, the person who turned a house into a home. Her music, the scent of her flowers in the garden, the aroma of her cakes in the kitchen. All of it went with her. My father buried himself in work. He ran an accounting firm, and after my mother's death, he devoted himself to work. He would leave early in the morning and return late at night. I was the one left at home, dusting the antique porcelain dolls in my mother's guest room, watering the roses in the garden, keeping the lights on in the house. The 2 years after my mother's passing were like 3 ghosts wandering in the house, father and daughter. Conversations were short, smiles were rare, hugs were almost non-existent. My father no longer called me his little princess. He no longer cooked those strange French dishes my mother had taught him. Sometimes at dinner we would sit across from each other and just look at each other, each of us seeing traces of the woman we had lost in the other. Then one day, my father came home different. He had removed his tie, had combed his hair. He sat down at the table and clasped his hands together. "Aylin, there's something I need to talk to you about." My stomach tightened. This tone of voice was usually the harbinger of bad news. "I met someone." 3 words, 3 simple words. But at that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Selma, a 45-year-old woman who worked at a real estate office, with a 19-year-old daughter from her previous marriage, well-dressed. Within 2 months, she married my father. Within 3 months, she and her daughter Tata moved into our house. Within 5 months, everything my mother had touched began to change. First, the walls my mother had painted. "This green is too dark. It makes the house look small," Selma said. Then my mother's antique furniture. These are too old-fashioned. Newer ones are more functional. Then my mother's garden. These roses require too much maintenance. Let's plant more modern plants. I didn't object. I could see that slight expression of happiness on my father's face. For the first time in a long time, there was a light in his eyes. As for me, I quietly moved my mother's small belongings, her photographs, her books into my own room. I hid her sweater, which still carried her scent, under my pillow. Seda was 4 years younger than me, but there seemed to be a 10-year gap between us. While she was interested in loud music, social media, and boyfriends, I was buried in books, classes, and dreams of one day leaving this house. After high school, I got a scholarship to study business. From day one, I had one goal: to save myself. While my father and his new family built their own world at home, I was building a new world for myself, a world of textbooks, internship applications, and study programs. Morning classes at the university, afternoon work at the library, evening shifts as a waitress at a cafe, weekend assistant accounting jobs. For 5 years, I didn't waste a single penny. I didn't go on vacations. I didn't go to fancy cafes with my friends. I bought the cheapest clothes. I always had sandwiches I brought from home. I had only one goal: to get into the prestigious business school in London and graduate as a world citizen. To see the world, as my mother had always dreamed. To build my own life away from my father's gloomy gaze, the constantly changing house by Selma, and Seda's endless parties. Every night, I counted my wages from the ATM and recorded them in a notebook. Every month, the money that accumulated was a milestone on my way to freedom. At 25, I graduated from university with honors. My father came to the ceremony along with Selma and Seda. Their presence was surprising, but their efforts to appear as a family on graduation day had touched me. That evening, as we dined at a restaurant together, I felt like a family for the first time in a long time. A month after graduation, my dream came true. I received an acceptance letter from the London Business School. I had been accepted into the program and had also won a partial scholarship. I cried with joy. That same day, when I checked my cell phone, my savings had reached exactly 165,000 liras. This was enough to establish my life in London. I could cover the remaining part of the tuition fee, my living expenses, and my first month's rent. I had already started packing my suitcases, my passport application, visa procedures, health insurance. Everything was planned. I was just one step away from the freedom I had dreamed of for years. That night, the phone rang. "Aylin, we're losing the house." I immediately recognized the panic in my father's voice, a voice I hadn't heard in years, the voice he used when my mother died. "What happened, Dad? Are you okay?" "Please come home right away. We need to talk." When I arrived home by taxi, I was met with a dark and tense scene in the living room. My father, Selma, and Seda were sitting silently as if at a funeral. On the table was a series of letters, stamped with red urgent. "What's going on here?" My father looked up with tired eyes. "Sit down, Aylin." I sat on the couch, my heart beating fast. "There are some things you don't know," my father began. "Things have been going very badly for the last 2 years. Clients left one by one. The economic crisis, bank loans, Seda's university expenses." Selma intervened, her voice trembling. "We used all our savings. We took out loans, but now we have no strength left to hold on." My father pushed a letter toward me. the bank logo, and underneath in bold letters, foreclosure notice. If we don't pay 150,000 liras within 4 weeks, they will foreclose on the house. Something collapsed inside me. This wasn't just a house. These were the walls permeated with my mother's smile, the garden bearing the marks of my first bike ride, the corridor where I felt the coldness of the floor on Christmas mornings, the bedroom where my mother took her last breath. "How did it get this bad?" I asked, examining the letters. My father avoided my gaze. "Things are tough, Aylin. The economy is bad. Everyone is struggling." But as I skimmed the other papers on the table, I realized the situation was different. A list of expenses made over the past 2 years, luxury vacations, Sada's private university fees, new furniture, a new car. "How did you afford all of these?" I asked, my voice trembling. Selma interjected. "We had savings from the good times." I knew she was lying. The money from my mother was set aside for something else, for my education. My father had used that money for these unnecessary luxuries. Seda was playing with her phone, seemingly unconcerned with this serious family crisis. My eyes suddenly caught the new bracelets on Selma's wrist, the latest model of a smart watch, Seda's new phone. My father's branded watch, which he displayed ostentatiously. "I can help you," I finally said. As the words left my mouth, I felt my London dreams sinking. "I have savings?" My father's eyes lit up. "How much?" "Enough," I said. "Yüz altmış beş bin lira. I had saved it for London, but—" There was a quick exchange of glances between Selma and my father. Then Selma jumped up, ran to me, and wrapped her arms around my neck. "You'll be our angel," she said, with tears in her eyes. "We'll never forget this." But during that embrace, over my shoulder, I saw the look Selma sent to Seda, a small, victorious smile, as if they were talking about a plan. At that moment, a small alarm went off inside me. I agreed to give the money to my father and Selma, but for the first time, a seed of doubt had sprouted within me. Before giving the money, I called my friend Zeynep from university. She had just finished law school and was doing her first internship at a large law firm. "There should be a written agreement for such a large amount," said Zeynep, sitting across from me at my cafe. "Even if it's family, everything should be documented." "My father would consider this an insult," I said, turning my cup in my hands. "In his eyes, having official documents in family affairs is a sign of distrust." Zeynep smiled. "Then we can present this as a formality required by the bank. Think of it as the bank requiring a guarantor for the debt repayment." "What kind of agreement will this be?" "A simple loan agreement. However, Zeynep hesitated for a moment. I'll add a small clause. If the debt is not paid within 6 months, 51% of the property will transfer to you." "What? My father would never agree to that." "Don't worry, this clause is in every standard loan agreement. Besides, no one even reads it, especially if you say it's a bank procedure." We prepared the agreement. 3 days later, I went to my father and Selma's house with the agreement and a notary friend. "What's this?" my father asked, looking at the papers suspiciously. "Bank procedure," I said casually. "They require an official document for the money transfer. Just sign, the notary will certify it." My father and Selma looked at each other, then shrugged. "Bureaucracy," my father said as he signed. As I left the notary, there was a relief inside me. Maybe it was an unnecessary precaution, but as I sacrificed my London dreams, I wanted at least a safety net. The first 2 months, everything was fine. My father and Selma were warmer, more grateful than before. Selma now asked for my opinion, and my father would chat with me a bit when he returned from work in the evenings. Even Seda occasionally offered to go to the movies with me. I felt good. I had done the right thing. I had postponed my dreams for my family, but it was worth it. My father had started looking for work again, and Selma was implementing small saving methods at home. But after the 3rd month, subtle changes began. First, small comments about my position in the house. "Aylin, your schooling is over now. Why are you still here? Aren't you thinking of getting your own place?" Selma asked at dinner one evening. "This is my home too, Selma," I said with a smile. "Besides, I'm focusing on my career at the company right now." "Sure, honey, sure," she said, rolling her eyes. "But for a woman, having her own space is very important. How long will you continue living with us?" Then questions about my routines. "Why are you coming home so late?" my father asked one night. "It's 11 o'clock. "I went out for dinner with my colleagues, Dad." "We'd appreciate it if you'd let us know your entry times from now on," said Selma, supporting my father. "When someone comes in late, there's a security concern." The worst was comments about my mother's memories. "Shall we remove those old photos now?" said Selma, pointing to the family albums in the living room. "The living room looks too gloomy. Let's put something more modern, lively on the walls." "My mother is in those photos," I said, my voice trembling. "Yes, darling, I know. But constantly living in the past isn't healthy. We need to look forward." One day when I returned from work, I found my door open. When I entered, Teda was rummaging through the antique music box my mother had given me. "What are you doing?" I asked, in shock and anger. "Oh, I was just looking. It's very beautiful. Can I keep it?" Teda asked shamelessly. "No," I said firmly. "It's from my mother. It's very valuable." Seda pouted. "Why are you so selfish? You already have everything." It wasn't worth arguing, but that night I installed a lock on my door. I no longer felt safe in my own home, in my own room. In the 4th month, Selma's redecorating madness grew. My mother's old kitchen cabinets were changed. The living room floor was renewed. The roses in the garden were uprooted, replaced with modern landscaping. Each change erased a little more of my mother's traces. By the 5th month, I was almost completely invisible in the house. My opinions weren't asked. Plans were made without consulting me. Decisions were made in my absence. And then, in the 6th month, they dropped the big bomb. "Aylin, we need to talk to you," my father said at dinner one evening. His voice sounded serious and formal. I slowly put my fork down on my plate. "Yes, Dad?" Selma continued with a victorious smile. "Seda's boyfriend is moving from Izmir. He's coming here for engagement preparations. We're thinking of giving him your room." I was in shock. My fork slipped from the plate and fell to the floor. "What? But that's my room." "Yes, but you were already thinking of moving out, weren't you?" said Selma, as if we had discussed this before. "You're 30 years old. It's time to build your own life." I looked at my father, seeking support in his eyes, but he was just looking at his plate, avoiding meeting my eyes. "Honestly," my father finally said, "we agree. A little independence would do you good." "What about the 165,000 liras I gave you?" I said, my voice trembling. "If it wasn't for that money, you wouldn't be living in this house right now." Selma quickly replied, "That was a gift, not a rental fee. Family members help each other." Something broke inside me at that moment. They had taken my money, my dreams, my time. And now they were showing me the door. "How much time do I have?" I asked, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. 2 weeks, said my father, as if he were in a business meeting. Sada's fiancé is coming on the 14th. May 14th, I said, my voice breaking. But that's my birthday. There was a brief silence at the table. Then Selma, with a fake smile, said, "Oh, right, then we'll combine the celebration." I ran to my room, locked the door, and cried. Hours later, I woke up to voices from outside. My father and Selma were arguing. We could sell the house and move to Izmir after Tada's engagement. But what about Aylin? This house is too big now, and if we sell it, we'd have a nice amount of money left. My blood froze. They wanted to sell not just my room, but everything that reminded me of my mother. I didn't sleep at all that night. I took the agreement Zeynep had prepared out of my drawer and read it over and over again. On the last page, a clause written in small letters caught my attention. If the debt is not paid within 6 months, 51% of the property will transfer to the creditor, Aylin Demir. I picked up my phone. It was 3 in the morning, but I didn't care. I called Zeynep. "Aylin, it's 3 o'clock. What happened?" Zeynep's voice sounded sleepy. "Did you really put that clause in the agreement, the 51% share one?" "Yes, I told you, don't you remember?" I said, "just a safety measure. You probably won't ever use it." "But is it valid? Is it legal?" "Completely, notarized and annotated on the title deed." There was a silence. "Aylin, what happened? Aren't they paying their debt?" "Worse," I said. "They're kicking me out of the house." Zeynep's voice changed. There was no trace of sleepiness left. "When?" "In 2 weeks." "On my birthday." "Wait, let me calculate." Zeynep thought for a moment. "It's been exactly 6 months since the agreement, and they haven't made any payments, right?" "No, they haven't." "Then Aylin, legally, 51% of the house belongs to you. Do you understand this? You are now the legal majority shareholder of the house." My heart raced. "So what can I do?" "Everything," said Zeynep, her voice now holding power. "You can prevent the sale of the house. In fact, if you want, you can evict them from the house. You are the homeowner now." After hanging up the phone, I sat by the window for a long time. Dawn was breaking outside. Those early hours my mother always loved. The birds in the garden had started to sing. 2 weeks passed quickly. I silently made my plans. On the surface, I appeared to be preparing to move. I packed a few boxes, sorted some of my belongings. My father and Selma seemed pleased. Sada had already started measuring my room. I woke up early on my birthday morning. I was turning 30 that day, the beginning of a new decade and the end of some things in my life. I looked in the mirror. I put on my mother's blue dress, the dress she had given me on her last birthday. I styled my hair the way she liked it. I sprayed my perfume. My door was knocked on. My father entered, his face serious and determined. "Are you ready?" he asked, looking at my suitcases. "Seda and Mert will be here this afternoon." "Today is my birthday," I said, looking directly into his eyes. My father hesitated for a moment. "Yes, I know. I want to wish you a happy birthday." "Thank you," I said, with no emotion in my voice. "Look, Aylin, I know this is difficult, but believe me, it's time for you to build your own life. Being independent, making your own decisions, these are good things." You're not interested in my own decisions, I said calmly. You just want to make room for Tseda's fiancé. My father sighed. Don't make this so difficult. This is best for everyone. What about the money I gave you? 165,000 lira, baba. That money was a gift, not for you to buy the right to live in my house as my daughter. What about the agreement you signed? My father laughed. What agreement? That was just a formality to show the bank. It has no legal binding. I smiled as my eyes filled with tears. Is that so, Dad? Would you like to test that? What do you mean? Nothing, I said. I'll pack my bags. I packed my things, crying. I fit my mother's photos, letters, a few clothes, and my most precious memories into 2 suitcases. In the kitchen, my birthday cake was waiting. I had bought it for myself last night. The candles hadn't been lit yet. I paused one last time at the door. My father, Selma, and Seda were in the living room, almost in a celebratory mood. If my mother were here, she would never have done this to me, I said one last time. My father's face changed. Don't bring your mother into this. As I told you, you've grown up now. Go and grow up. The door closed behind me. It was raining outside. I was stranded on the street with my suitcases. A lump in my throat, tears in my eyes. But at the same time, I felt a strange power inside me. When my phone rang, I answered immediately. It was Zeynep. Did they do it? She asked directly. Yes, I'm outside with my suitcases. Perfect. Now we move on to phase 2, said Zeynep with cold determination in her voice. They evicted you from the house. Now we're going to question their legal right to stay there. How? Come to my office. I've prepared all the documents. A police officer I know will also help us. 2 weeks later, I returned to the house with Zeynep and a police officer. We had all our legal documents, court orders, and bailiff letters in hand. My father opened the door. When he saw me, he was first surprised, then angry. What are you doing here? He asked harshly. I've come home, Dad, I said calmly. This is no longer your home. On the contrary, said Zeynep, stepping forward. Mr. Demir, we are here to inform you that my client, Aylin Demir, is a 51% shareholder of this house. According to the agreement you signed, because you did not pay your debt, the majority share of the property has legally passed to Aylin. My father staggered. What nonsense is this? That document was just... Zeynep opened the document file. This agreement is notarized and annotated on the title deed. The court has also made its decision. It is completely legal and binding. The police officer pulled a document from his pocket. Mr. Demir, if you prevent your client from entering the house, this constitutes a legal offense. Selma came running from behind, wearing house clothes. What's going on here? Look who's here, said my father, anger now replacing shock. Our daughter has come to throw us out of our house. This is nonsense, shouted Selma. Are you kicking us out of our home? No, I said calmly. I wasn't crying anymore. I was strong. I'm not showing you the door. I'm just taking back part of my own house, just like you did to me. I carried my suitcases to my old room. Tada's things were everywhere, but I didn't care. I sat on the bed and took a deep breath. In my room, where my mother's blanket still hung on the walls, where I could see the garden from the window, where the roses were no longer there, I felt at home again. That night, we had a big family meeting in the living room. My father, Selma, Tada, and her fiancé Mert were sitting across from me. Zeynep was also by my side with our legal documents. What do you want from us? asked my father, his voice filled with anger and fear. Very simple, I said. Either you'll pay me the money I gave for the house, plus interest and compensation, or we'll sell the house and share our money. Are you going to leave us homeless? Asked Selma in tears. No, Selma, I'm not like you. I give you 1 month. Either you pay my money, or we'll sell the house together. But I want you to know who has the say in this house now. My father leaned toward the table. You'll regret this, Aylin. We are your family. Family doesn't throw its members out on their birthdays, Dad. I'm just using my legal rights, just as you did to me. The following 3 weeks were like a tense ceasefire. My father was hardly speaking to me. Selma was constantly crying, trying to portray herself as the victim. Seda and her fiancé had to rent another apartment. However, during this time, I also gained interesting information. While using Tada's computer, I accidentally saw her emails that were left open. I learned Selma's real plan. They had been planning to evict me from the house, sell it, and move to Izmir where Tada's fiancé lived. Placing Tada in my room was just the first step of their plan. The most interesting thing was, Selma had planned that I would not receive any share from the sale proceeds. She's earning her own money anyway. She doesn't need our help, she had written in an email. This discovery erased all the guilt I had been feeling. I asked them to either pay the money or agree to sell the house within a month. At the end of the month, my father came to my office. His once majestic posture had now collapsed. His eyes were bruised, his hair disheveled. We can't pay the money, Aylin, he said directly. We don't have the resources. Then we have to sell the house, Dad. I know, he said, his eyes tearing up. But I have a request from you, for your mother, for your mother. Will you leave us enough money to buy a small apartment? You can have all the rest. Something softened inside me. I really didn't expect to see my father like this, broken, regretful, and truly in need of help. What about Selma's plans for Izmir? I asked. I know, Dad. I know everything. My father avoided my eyes. That was just an idea. It wasn't definite yet. Don't lie to me, I said, but there was now more sadness in my voice, not anger. I know what plans you made behind my back when you kicked me out of the house. My father began to cry silently. I had never seen him like this in my life. I'm sorry, Aylin. I'm really sorry. I was so lost. After your mother was gone, nothing was the same. And Selma, she just seemed like a solution that would fix everything. You lost me too, Dad. You lost me just like you lost Mom. But like me, you still have a chance. What do you mean? We're going to sell the house. You and Selma will go your own way, and I'll go mine. Maybe one day, a long time from now, maybe then we can talk again. A month later, the house was sold. My father and Selma took enough money to buy a small apartment and moved to another city. As for me, I gained my freedom and my London dream. As they loaded the last cardboard box into their cars, my father came to me. I should be proud, I guess, he said quietly. You turned out like me. No, Dad, I said. I'm like my mother. I'm just not as patient as she was. Your mother loved you very much, you know. She always said you were special. My eyes welled up. I loved her too. I still do. Will you be able to love me again one day? He asked, his voice a fragile whisper. I don't know, Dad. Time will tell. They got into their cars and drove away. I remained standing in the garden of the sold house, where my mother's roses once were, There was now a modern landscaped area, but that lilac scent was still there, carried by a slight breeze. I'm 32 now, and a lot has changed in my life. After selling the house, I completed my master's degree in London. I worked at an international consulting firm, then returned to Turkey and started my own company. Now I mentor young entrepreneurs, especially developing projects for women to gain their financial independence. My relationship with my father is still complicated. We talk on the phone once every 2 months. We meet face-to-face once a year. We haven't completely healed, but at least we can talk. He divorced Selma and now lives a modest life in a small town. Seda got married and lives in Izmir. We occasionally message on social media. The most important lesson I learned from this experience: even people you love can hurt you. And sometimes, to protect yourself, you need to make tough decisions. The biggest financial lesson I learned: put everything in writing, even when giving money to family. Emotions can change, but signatures are permanent. Most importantly, I now know that real family is not people who only come to you when they need you, then show you the door. It's people who always make you feel valued, respect your boundaries, and give their love unconditionally. The pains of the past no longer slow me down. Instead, I'm strengthened by what they've taught me. I now know that I don't have to tie my worth to others' approval. I have the courage to chart my own path, make my own decisions, and say no when necessary. Every night, as I open the music box my mother gave me and listen to the melody she loved, I feel a sense of peace and strength inside me, because I now understand that true power lies not in hurting others, but in being able to preserve your essence even when you're hurt. If you too are experiencing family abuse, whether financial or emotional, know that you are not alone. Raise your voice, learn your rights, and seek professional help if necessary. Protecting yourself is not selfishness, it's a necessary self-preservation mechanism for survival. Remember that sometimes life's darkest moments can transform into the moments that make you strongest. The young woman who got wet in the rain on her birthday now stands before you as a strong individual who has taken control of her own life. How sacred do you think family ties are? Have you ever had to choose between loyalty and self-respect? Or have you experienced financial and emotional abuse simultaneously? Share your story in the comments, because shared experiences strengthen us all. In the next video, I'll tell you how I got dumped and how it opened an unexpected door in my career. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. Sometimes life's darkest moments can transform into the moments that make you strongest. For me, that rainy birthday was exactly such a moment.